I welcome you all for the 10th US India Smart Energy Workshop. And this is in collaboration with USDOC, USAID, CIS and USIBC. Welcome you all. So with the opening, we start with this session with the opening remarks and welcome address by Reji Kumar Pillai, President ISGF. I welcome you, sir, on the dais. Then we have special address from Monali Hazra from USAID. Welcome, ma'am. Then we also have a special address from Siva, sir, who is Commissioner and Vice Chair, California Energy Commission. Welcome, sir. Thank you for joining us. So now welcome address by Reji, sir, President ISGF.
Big thank you to US Department of Commerce, US Department of Energy, and this time we have CSIS also as a partner for this 10th edition of the US India workshop. We've been doing it for a long time now, you know, from the many of the topics which we've been discussing in this workshops as automatically or gradually it has come into the US India Energy Cooperation Program. And this year we have selected two topics for this workshop, which is resource adequacy planning for net zero power systems and energy storage. And both are interrelated as well. I'm really delighted to welcome a very high power delegation from California, led by Mr. Siva Gunda, Vice Chair and Commissioner of California Energy Commission, along with Madam Alice Reynolds, the President of California Public Utilities Commission, and also Commissioner Andrew McAllister, Commissioner of California Energy Commission, and with support from CSIS for putting this together. We are really honored to have this. And last year only, India has issued Ministry of Power has issued some guidelines on resource adequacy planning. And utilities really don't know where to start, how to do, and none of the utilities have actually done this in the past, and they are all struggling to do that. And this topic at this point in time is very, very timely and needed in the country. So we hope the learnings of the lesson. Also, you don't see so many people sitting in the room, but everything is recorded, and we will be uploading the videos on the our website and also on the YouTube channels. So I hope you have no problems. So okay, we are talking about technical subject only. And we also very happy to have Mr. Raj Adepalli, the former Commissioner of New York Public Utilities Commission. So, oh, sorry, you are here. So, first time meeting. Sorry, apologies. And happy to have Soni Saab and many other experts here. And I won't take much of your time because we are already running late. Thank you very much, and wish a very, very fruitful deliberations in this panels. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So now I request Monali ma'am for a special address. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here today with all the esteemed guests and experts to discuss a very important topic of resource adequacy. On behalf of USAID, or United States Agency for International Development, I'm very pleased to welcome you to this session on resource adequacy for net zero power system. With Government of India's leadership role, the energy sector in India is making rapid strides. India aims to achieve 500 gigawatt of non-fossil fuel capacity by 2030, which underscores its ambitious pursuit of energy transition and sustainability. Substantial progress has already been made, with RE capacity tripling from 40 gigawatt to 125 gigawatt between 2015 to 2023, accounting for nearly 10% of total electricity generated in FY 2023. These are remarkable achievement, and India today, as I believe, stands at 4th largest RE capacity in the world. With remarkable strides in increasing its renewable energy capacity, the country has to also focus on reliability and stability of the grid, particularly during peak demand period. The rapid expansion of India's energy demand, coupled with nation's ambitious RE targets, presents both challenges as well as opportunity in ensuring adequate resources. Factors such as intermittency of renewable resources, the aging infrastructure of conventional power plants, and the need for energy storage solutions pose unique challenges to achieving resource adequacy in India. A major challenge lies in effectively integrating RE capacity to meet peak load demands. Furthermore, the penetration of RE requires greater system ramping and balancing, presenting operational hurdles. Resource adequacy therefore becomes pivotal in maintaining the stability and reliability of the energy system. Resource adequacy planning ensures a sufficient generation capacity to reliably meet demand across different scenarios. This would also enable the expansion of RE capacity, considering the necessity for flexible resources, energy storage system for shifting energy, and demand response measure to manage the intermittency and variability of RE resources, among other factors. Understanding the critical role of resource adequacy, CEA, Central Electricity Authority, has issued the guideline for resource adequacy framework for the Indian electricity sector in 2023, which is being followed by various institutions and stakeholders. Forum of Regulators has also published model regulation as guidance for state regulatory commissions, State Electricity Regulatory Commission. As per the model regulation, the resource adequacy framework shall cover a mechanism for demand assessment and forecasting, generation resource planning, procurement planning, and monitoring and compliance. To further strengthen the implementation of RA framework, states are expected to follow state-level regulation, including enablers for RA mechanism. And I quickly come to what USAID is doing in this front. USAID, through its clean energy program called SAREP, or South Asia Regional Energy Partnership Program, has been working very closely with both central and as well as state stakeholders to supporting institutionalizing of an enabling framework. We are partnering with 5 states, including Haryana, Madhya Pradesh, Karnataka, Gujarat, Assam, and a union territory, which is Andaman and Nicobar Islands, on modernization of utility, including distributions, transmission and system operation, and deployment of advanced technology. We are also partnering with regulatory commissions or regulators in these states in order to bring in enabling frameworks, regulatory frameworks to support the clean energy transition. SAREP is working in few states across, specifically looking at Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, to support building blocks of RA framework, that is demand forecasting, capacity crediting, energy modeling and optimization, RA regulation, and capacity building and handholding. Through the panel discussion today, I am sure we will delve into important aspects of RA planning, focusing on the current state of resource adequacy in India as well as in US. I see a number of experts from US as well here, as well as highlighting the role of policies, regulation, and technology. It is great to have such an exciting panel, and I to have an opportunity to get your insight, experiences, as well as perspective on this important issue. I'm sure this very interesting dialogue will enrich our knowledge as well as identify specific actionable solution which agencies such as ours can take forward. Let me thank all of you for joining us today, and I'm sure that the discussion today will provide great insights to everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I request Siva Sir, Commissioner and Vice Chairman, California Energy Commission, for his special address. Thank you.
Pull up the. Just gonna go. I can go. This is it, right? Okay, thank you. Yeah, this is the one. Yeah. Hello, good afternoon, everybody. As Reji sir mentioned, I'm Siva Gunda with the California Energy Commission. I just want to begin by extending my thank you to Reji sir and the India Smart Grid Forum for inviting a number of us here to be a part of this conversation. I know you'll hear from President Reynolds next, as well as Commissioner McAllister diving into the panel. I'm going to try to set the context, a little bit of how we do things in California as a way to showcase the background. So everything in California currently is guided by our bold goals right now, which is carbon neutrality by 2045. So as we pursue carbon neutrality, the core strategy is to make sure we electrify large swath of the economy and underpin that with a 100% clean energy grid also by 2045. Along with that, given more than 50% of our emissions today in California are coming from transportation, we have some bold goals in terms of all new sales after 2035 for light duty and medium duty being electric vehicles. So just on the path of progress, in 2013, about a decade ago, we were about 41% zero carbon. Today, we are almost 59%. It goes up and down. We go all the way up to 64, depending upon hydro conditions, but largely we're about 60% today. And we are going towards our 100% goal in 2045. So as we think about the resource planning that is required to meet this demand as we move forward, we expect our electricity demand to grow by 2.5 times over the next 20 years. And in order to meet that demand, as well as reduce our usage of thermal fleet, we need to be adding approximately 200,000 megawatts or 200 gigawatts in the next 22 years. And one of the things I would like to highlight on this particular chart is we will continue to rely a lot on solar as well as wind, but there's a huge amount of storage that we will be needing to add to the grid, approximately 50,000 megawatts over the next 20 years. One of the things that's not on this chart, but most of our modeling suggests that 85% of our thermal resources today has to be retained in 2045 to run about 5% of the time to ensure that we have the inertia on the system and the ramping capability on the system. So as we think about then the progress a little bit more, we have been able to increase the solar generation over the last decade in California by 20x, about 63% increase in wind, and over the time the natural gas usage or our thermal fleet has reduced by 20%. One of the success stories for us over this time has been our ability to add about 10,000 megawatts of storage, both the bulk side as well as behind the meter, which is playing a critical role in substituting the ramping needs of the thermal fleet. But I do want to highlight this particular chart. It'll take a minute to digest. So this is a heat map of 8760 hours. On the x-axis, you have every single day, 365 days. And on the y-axis, you have 24 hours of the day. Where you see orange and red is where we use the thermal fleet. So just kind of observing where we use that, it's primarily in the evening. This is when the solar is going down, and we need to ramp up our thermal fleet to match that. And also from a seasonal point of view, it's primarily in the summer. So our challenge will be in removing or reducing our reliance on gas fleet is to really think about those resources that can support us in the evening ramp, but also seasonally in the winter. So then kind of going into the overarching planning, California is a pretty large state. We have about 40 million people in California. But when you look at who serves the electricity in California, we have about 80 retail sellers. 40 of them are under the jurisdiction of our Public Utilities Commission, and President Reynolds is here who will be speaking on the panel next. And about 40 of them are publicly owned utilities that we generally provide direction on their resource planning processes. So when we talk about resource adequacy and resource planning, it's a multi-agency work in California. So the Energy Commission, who I and Commissioner McAllister represent, primarily focuses on the policy and planning realm. We have some regulatory functions, but we really, our core function in terms of resource planning is demand forecasting. Really thinking to how do we forecast that over certain different time zones, and also thinking through the integrated resource plans of the publicly owned utilities. The Public Utilities Commission, who you'll hear from soon, really looks at the resource adequacy paradigm for 75% of the state. So, I mean, I'm looking forward to a lot of questions to President Reynolds next panel. And we have the third entity, which is really important, is the California ISO, which is our system operator, who runs and designs the market as well as balances the overall grid. Okay, so the next few slides, I'm going to just talk about how we do planning as a way of setting the stage for the conversation. So when we think about the demand forecasting and the resource planning and resource adequacy, we do that broadly in 4 time horizons. So just sorry for the small print here. The first one is about 25 years ahead. So given that we have a 2045 goal, we are looking at a directional approach for 2045. This is where we might not be able to really generate a demand forecast because it's very speculative. But what we do here is develop demand scenarios. So we look at the demand scenarios, we look at a variety of policy scenarios that could occur, and based on that, we develop a resource mix directionally indicative of where the state might go. So that's the 25-year time period. It becomes more rigorous as we come closer into the 10-year period. This is what we call the integrated resource planning phase. So in this case, the demand scenarios become more of a demand forecast, meaning we begin to see that the demand is more reasonable to occur. So as we plan for our resources, we use that forecast to drive our resource planning. This is where the reliability analysis becomes more rigorous. We use a standard called the loss of load expectation, which is basically ensuring that when we do our system planning, we don't have more than 1 outage every 10 years. That's the standard to which we plan. And then the next time frame is the resource adequacy time frame. This is where you're looking at 1 to 3 year time frame. So in this case, we are doing the demand forecasting more on an hourly basis. It's very rigorous in that time period. And we pass that information, that resource, the demand forecasting month by month, year by year, to the Public Utilities Commission and other regulatory authorities to begin to think about how to prorate that demand to each of the load serving entity and ensure that there is an obligation that they have those resources to meet the demand. And the final one is really the operational time frame. This is where you're looking at day ahead, in a mostly day to a month ahead time frame. So over this time frame, we have a responsibility of looking at reliability, and I'm going to check into that a little bit. But overall, as you go to the time frame, it becomes more and more rigorous, and the certainty increases. So now California has a number of agencies. With the Energy Commission, we have about 800 staff. With the Public Utilities Commission, they have about 1,400 staff, with 200 dedicated on the energy planning side. And along with that, CAISO has another 600 staff. So we have a lot of people working, and all of us work together, including another agency, which is called the California Air Resources Board, who is responsible for developing the blueprint for California as a whole. So let me kind of walk this through. This is going to look pretty crazy, but I'm going to just walk this through a second. So the first thing, so the California Air Resources Board, or CARB, develops what is called a scoping plan. The scoping plan is a blueprint for the economy, and it looks at how do we get the entire economy to carbon neutrality. In doing so, they allocate what level of GHG content can the electric grid have, and that's what drives the next set of planning. Along with the scoping plan, an important activity is what the Energy Commission does in developing the forecasting, as we mentioned earlier. And the SB 100 there, all it means is the legislative bill that we have, which directs that to get to 100% zero carbon electricity. So all those things are done as a first step, and then those go into the PUC's processes, the Public Utility Commission's processes, where those different numbers, the demand forecasting, the CARB's requirement on how the carbon content of the grid should be, those go into development of the integrated resource planning process. This is where the CPUC is saying, in order to meet this demand, we need to have these kind of resources procured. And then the next step, so you take those resources and then you send them over to our independent system operator for the transmission planning requirements. So, demand forecast to resource planning to transmission, and it becomes a cyclical activity that we do every few years. So as we continue to do this process, one of the critical struggles we have right now is the climate change is making it really hard to fight climate change. So as we look at our demand forecasting, one of the things we are struggling to incorporate is the extreme weather events. So what you are seeing here is the blue line, the blue distribution is for 30 years of temperature distribution versus the orange one, which is 20 years. What I would like to get your attention to is that the median line, which is right in the middle where it coincides with the peak, is not really moving, meaning the average temperature or the median temperature to which you have to grow your demand forecasting doesn't really move. But as you look at the tails are becoming longer and longer, right? So basically, if we plan for a median forecast, you will not be able to get your system, keep the lights on under extreme weather events. This is just a quick snapshot on the temperatures that we have been observing for the last 30 years in California. As you see there, 22, 20, and 2017, it's just a point of reference that the high-level temperatures or the extreme temperatures are becoming more common. And so you have to begin to incorporate them into your planning. So we have taken a lot of steps to do research to understand future planning on temperatures. So here's a snapshot on what we expect the extreme temperatures to be. What you're seeing on the x-axis is all the way to 2100, and the y-axis is the different months of the year. So if you look at how often extreme temperature used to occur in 1960 versus 2100, you begin to have temperatures that are extreme for over 6 months in 2100. So how are you going to take that information and make it into your planning processes? On the top of that, California's geography also creates a couple of more climate issues, which is around drought and fires, which we also have to plan for. So taking all of that into account, I just wanted to direct your attention to the green box and then the orange box. The green box is what standard planning used to look like before 2020. This is where the demand forecast is done and it's sent over for the resource adequacy and IRP planning processes. But since then, since 2020, given the extreme events are happening more often, the state has taken steps to create a separate planning regime to deal with extreme events. So the Public Utilities Commission will largely be focused on thinking through the standard planning, and the state is going to intervene to support the extreme events by providing resources through taxpayer money or subsidies. So overall, the reliability challenges in California, planning processes, how do you account for all these different variations, including electrification goals? Second, how can we scale the resources quickly? Currently, we need to add about 6,000 megawatts to 7,000 megawatts a year. And given the magnitude of those resources and the amount of land required, it's going to get increasingly difficult to add those resources. So how do you scale them up? And finally, the creation of a strategic reserve by the state to get us through the extreme events. So this is just for a presentation. It'll be online. I just wanted to put this on for those of you who might be interested on what kind of things we are doing in the strategic reserve. But basically, this is where retiring thermal fleet is put in a state-funded reserve outside of the market that the state will trigger based on an extreme event. Similarly, ratepayers are paying a lot of money for different load reduction programs. And the last one, which is the non-programmatic opportunities, is where working with different loads that could be flexible. For us, it's pumping load in California. We have large amount of water that flows from the north to south, and being able to change that pumping load just for a couple of days will provide a lot of relief for us. So those are the kind of programs we're working on. So I want to just close with this. I think demand flexibility is going to be critical moving forward. An opportunity we see that we can, that is there, but how do you do it cost effectively is the question. So California as a state has set up a goal for demand flexibility about 7,000 megawatts by 2030. And there are three elements to that demand flexibility. How do you reduce the demand through rates? How do you aggregate through VPPs and virtual power plants? And how do you allocate some of that demand for extreme events? So that's the paradigm we are working on. So with that, just at a high level, takeaways, I think resource adequacy, as Monali kind of mentioned, ensures sufficiency of energy, but in order to come to that planning, you have to have a lot of different elements that come together. And even though you develop a resource adequacy paradigm, it's important to think through how are we going to get through the extreme events. And so what are our contingency plans outside of the resource adequacy timeframe? And then finally, just recognizing the importance of collaboration. Historically, given how many agencies work in California, we used to be okay not talking to each other, but now we are forced to talk to each other every day to make sure all of our processes are harmonized, and the monies that we have, that we deploy through incentives and ratepayer monies, are synchronized to maximize the ratepayer benefits. So overall, California journey has been a challenging journey the last 4 years, and we expect that to be not so easy moving forward. With that, I'll pass it on back, and thank you again for having us, and thank you for the opportunity to set the stage here.
Thank you, sir, for giving a great special address and covering most of the things. So now, so I think we'll have a session 1, which is on resource adequacy planning for net zero power systems. And I request the panelists and speakers to be on the stage. First, we can have a group, like a picture for, and then we can. Yeah, okay. So, okay, I'll call the moderator, who is Mr. Shashwat Kumar. He's the moderator for the session. He's fellow India Energy Policy from CIS. And then we have the speakers, Ms. Alice Bushing Reynolds, President, California Public Utility Commission. Then we have Andrew Surf, Commissioner, California Energy Commission. I welcome you, ma'am. Welcome you, sir. Then we have Shushanta Chatterjee, sir. He is Chief Regulatory Affairs, CERC. Welcome you, sir. Then we have Gagan Swain, sir. He is Director, Finance and Corporate Affairs, Gridco. Welcome, sir. Then we have Raj Attapalli, sir. He is former member, New York State Public Service Commission. Welcome, sir. Then we have Jayant Kumar, sir. He is Head Digital Energy Solutions, L&T. I could see you, sir, but yeah, okay. Hello, sir. Welcome, sir. Then we have Sanjay Srivastava, sir. He is VP, BRPL. Welcome, sir. So we have a big panel, and so I welcome you all.